every new parent is curious as to what their child will look like. But more importantly to the medical field is how certain traits can be passed on, traits for conditions like sickle cell anemia. Sickle cell anemia is a growing problem in our world today because according to medical research, in certain parts of Africa, 1 in 5 African persons will possess the sickle cell trait. Sickle cell anemia is a fatal genetically transmitted disease stemming from the sickle-shaped blood cells it produces in the body. Thus, it makes sense that people want to find out if they have the gene and if they can pass it on to their offspring. Unfortunately, genetics isn't as cut and dry as the Punnett square makes it out to be. We can use the Punnett square to determine percent likelihoods of a trait being passed on. Unfortunately, right now, there's no possible way to see exactly how many children you would have that would be infected by the disease. But thanks to what's known as pedigree charts, we can look at these people's lineages and find out who is a carrier, who possesses the disease, and how likely their children are to have the disease. Here is a pedigree chart. I used blue here to show that they are not infected, red to show that they are infected, and here is what we call a carrier. Carriers are quite genetically significant because although they themselves do not suffer from the disease, they do possess the trait and can then pass it on to their offspring. So here we have a pedigree chart where one parent is infected with sickle cell anemia and one is not. And you can see that all their children are not affected. This is where carriers come into play, because even though all of these children don't look like they are infected with the disease, they are carriers. Assuming that the mother is homozygous dominant, as we see here, we can infer, using this Punnett square, that they are all still possessing the sickle cell trait, even if they are not directly infected. This means that every child given by these parents is a carrier for sickle cell and are heterozygous. This means that even though they are not directly infected with the sickle cell disease, assuming they married a person who is homozygous dominant, they could still have a child who carried the trait. And if, in fact, the other parent were also a carrier, that still leaves a 1 in 4% chance that the child can be infected, a 2 in 4 chance that they are also a carrier, leaving only 1 in 4 chance that they do not possess the disease at all. And if a carrier marries somebody who is infected with sickle cell anemia, this leaves no chance for any of their offspring to not possess the sickle cell trait. The most important thing we can see from these pedigree charts is that no matter who a person who's infected with the sickle cell anemia breeds with, all of their children will still possess the trait, which means that it will continue to be passed on generation to generation.